Super Castlevania IV was a masterpiece and a great start to the 16-bit era. Unfortunately, the next game, Rondo of Blood, was a Japan-only release for the PC Engine CD, which meant that many of us, myself included, missed out on the game back in the day. Most gamers didn't get a chance to play this until Konami released the Dracula X Chronicles on PSP, and later on put Rondo of Blood on the Wii's Virtual Console. The first thing you'll notice when booting up Rondo of Blood is the nice long animated intro. There are a few of these cutscenes scattered throughout the game as well, and they really help to flesh out the story a little bit more than previous entries in the series. Richter Belmont's hometown is destroyed by Dracula, and he also kidnaps some of the women, one of whom is Richter's girlfriend, Annette. Not only do you have to fight through monsters and defeat Dracula, but you must also try to find all the maidens. You accomplish this by finding keys in the stages, and then finding the cells the women are being held in. Once you find Maria in Stage 2, you'll be able to select her as a playable character. Maria is kind of like the easy mode in this game due to her faster moving speed, double jump, and her various animal attacks. Unlike previous games in the series, this one does not have passwords, but instead uses a save feature. The nice thing about the save feature is that it enables you to go back and play through previous levels, which makes finding the game's many secrets much easier. The gameplay follows the classic Castlevania formula with a few improvements. When you pick up a sub-weapon, your old one will drop behind you for a few seconds, in case you change your mind. It drove me nuts in the older games when I accidentally changed sub-weapons and couldn't get my old one back, so this is a very welcome addition. You can also use the powerful item crash ability, assuming you have enough hearts. These attacks generally damage everything on the screen and can come in handy during boss fights. Richter also has a backflip, which can help you dodge charging enemies. Another change is that dropping into a pit will not always kill you, and many times it's necessary for finding alternate paths and secrets. Speaking of alternate paths, there are 4 hidden stages to find in this game, which will lead to completely different boss fights. This gives the game some excellent replay value, since you won't be able to find everything in one playthrough. This game sports some beautiful graphics with some very nice sprite work and some great parallax scrolling. It's a much brighter looking game than Super Castlevania IV, which generally had a bit of a darker, grittier look to it. The Move To CD not only allowed Konami to enhance the graphics and add cutscenes, it also enabled them to use Red Book audio for the soundtrack. The game's music was composed by Akira Shoji, Keizo Nakamura, Tomoko Sano, and Mikio Saito. The tracks are generally more melodic and upbeat than Castlevania IV's more ambient, atmospheric music. One of the standouts of the soundtrack is Opus 13, which plays during one of the alternate stages. All of this adds up to make Rondo of Blood an absolute classic that should not be missed by any gamer. Getting the original PC Engine version can be tough and expensive, but as I said earlier, you can get this on a few other systems. It is an unlockable game on the PSP's Dracula X Chronicles, and you can also get it on the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console. Keep in mind that it's not actually available for the Wii U, so you will have to enter Wii mode to get the game, and unfortunately it cannot be played on the gamepad. That leads us to the second SNES game, Castlevania Dracula X. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this, but it appears that NEC wanted Rondo of Blood to be an exclusive title for the PC Engine CD. This meant that Konami couldn't just do a straight port of the game. So they ended up keeping a few things from Rondo and rearranging or altering many others. You'll immediately see some of the changes in the opening level. They merged the Burning Village from Stage 1 with the Chase from Stage 2, which might make you think the entire game will be similar to the PC Engine version, but that is not the case. Most of the stages are quite different, and to be honest, a couple are pretty dull. One complaint many people have are the stiff controls. After the smooth controls of Super Castlevania IV, it was kind of weird for Super Nintendo owners to have to go back to the stiff movement of the earlier games. I'm fine with it for the most part, but I do have a couple of issues. The first is the severe lack of post-hit invincibility. When you get hit in this game, you'll get knocked back, and your invincibility wears off in midair, which means if there is an enemy or a hazard where you land, you'll take a second hit with no way of defending yourself. The second happens on stage 2. You're supposed to cross this collapsing bridge, and every time a piece starts falling, Richter is kind of stuck to it for a quarter of a second. Not a long time, but just long enough to completely mess up your timing. What's worse is that these mermen keep jumping in your way, so you have to be really precise with your jumps and sub-weapons here. One mistake, and you're dead. I actually found this to be the toughest section of the game, even more challenging than the fight against Dracula. After that, the game gets slightly easier, but it's still quite challenging. The developers were particularly evil with enemy placement. They always seem to have a monster or a projectile exactly where you need to go. So you will definitely need some patience, timing, and skill to conquer this one. The fight against Dracula is considered to be one of the toughest battles in the entire series, mainly because you have to stand on columns while trying to defeat him. However, once you get over how scary the battle looks, you'll realize that the entire contest is nothing more than an extreme test of patience. It takes a very long time to defeat his first form, with each hit taking only a tiny amount off his life bar. The second form is much quicker because he no longer teleports. One tip I can offer for this fight is to duck if you're sure you cannot get out of the way. You will still take some damage, but you won't get knocked off the column. This game does offer a couple of alternate stages, and a couple of maidens to free as well. Unfortunately, you won't be able to play as Maria though. It would have been nice to have the option to use her, but the game is still enjoyable with just Richter. The soundtrack is pretty much the same as Rondo, but of course sounds a little bit different on the SNES. Both soundtracks sound great in my opinion, but I prefer the PC Engine version just a little bit more. Now, there is one more negative thing I have to mention about this game, and that is the price. Loose carts of this one can sell for the insane price of $200. As much as I like this game, it's definitely not worth it at that price, so I highly recommend picking it up on the Wii U for a fraction of the cost. Overall, Castlevania Dracula X is a good game that just happens to be a lesser port/sequel/reimagining of one of the best games in the series. If you're a fan of games like Castlevania III or Chronicles, you should feel right at home with this challenging but satisfying adventure. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.